Well, buckle up. It's about to get very intense in today's broadcast. You see, a Freedom of Information request has just revealed that the Department of Defense has been involved in about 23 proxy wars, or secret operations, if you will, since 2017. I've got so much information to show you, and we're really going to be diving deep into this. But before I do, quick reminder, check out my partner at NobleGoldInvestments.com. If you don't have a 401k or a Roth IRA or an IRA backed by metals, precious silvers, these kind of things, now is absolutely the time to do that, especially in light of what is going on with the economy. But now is the time to make sure you and your family are secure. And right now, you can get this 1/10 ounce gold coin here with any approved plan that they have. So check it out at NobleGoldInvestments.com. All right, so let's dive into these secret operations, also known as, or I would deem, proxy wars that the Department of Defense has been involved in. Take a look at where I found it, and this is on theintercept.com. They are the ones who filed the Freedom of Information Request Act and received the information back. But it's headlined here, how the Pentagon uses a secretive program to wage proxy wars. Exclusive documents and even interviews reveal the sweeping scope of classified 127E, E as in Echo operations. Now, the article goes on to state this: small teams of U.S. Special Operations Forces are involved in a low-profile proxy war program at a far greater scale than previously known, according to exclusive documents and interviews with more than a dozen current and former government officials. While The Intercept and other outlets have previously reported on the Pentagon's use of the secretive 127E authority in multiple African countries, a new document obtained through the Freedom of Information Act offers the first official confirmation that at least 14 127E programs were also active in the Greater Middle East and the Asian Pacific region as recently as 2020. In total, between 2017 and 2020, U.S. commandos conducted at least 23 separate 127E programs across the world. Now, there was also interviews done, one of those being Joseph Votel, a retired four-star Army general who headed both Special Operations Command and Central Command, which oversee the U.S. military efforts in the Middle East. Well, he confirmed the existence of previously unrevealed 127E counterterrorism efforts in Egypt, Lebanon, Syria, and Yemen. But it goes on to state this: the documents and interviews provide the most detailed picture yet of an obscure funding authority that allows American commandos to conduct counterterrorism operations by, with, and through foreign and irregular partner forces around the world. Basic information about these missions, where they are conducted, their frequency and targets, and the foreign forces the U.S. relies on to carry them out are unknown, even to most members of relevant congressional committees and key State Department personnel. That's a really huge point there. It goes on. Through 127E, the U.S. arms and trains and provides intelligence to foreign forces. But unlike traditional foreign assistance programs, which are primarily intended to build local capacity, 127E partners are then dispatched on U.S.-directed mission targeting U.S. enemies to achieve U.S. aims. And I quote, "The foreign participants in a 127 Echo program are filling gaps that we don't have enough Americans to fill," a former senior defense official involved with the program told The Intercept. If someone were to call a 127E Echo program a proxy operation, it would be hard to argue with them. Now it goes on. Retired generals with intimate knowledge of the program, known in military parlance as 127 Echo, say that it is extremely effective in targeting militant groups while reducing risks to U.S. forces. But experts told The Intercept that use of the little-known authority raises grave accountability and oversight concerns and potentially violates the United States Constitution. And I think that's a very huge point there, because there is a lot of things that are being that are being overlooked here. There's not the proper vetting, and there could be a lot of human rights abuses. There's a lot of questions about programs like this. But it goes on to ask those same questions as well. Critics are asking the same thing I am. And it says, critics of 127E warn that in addition to the risk of unanticipated military escalation and the potential cost of engaging in up to a dozen conflicts around the world, some operations may amount to an unlawful use of force because most members of Congress, including those directly responsible for overseeing foreign affairs, have no input and little visibility into where and how the programs are run. The 127E related hostilities can lack the congressional authority required by our U.S. Constitution. And that's an argument by Catherine Albright, counsel at the Brennan Center for Justice. But here's a quote. There's a reason to suspect the Department of Defense has used 127E programs to engage in combat beyond the scope of any authorization for the use of military force or permissible self-defense. Albright told The Intercept, noting substantial confusion at the Pentagon and in Congress over a stipulation that 127E programs support only authorized ongoing military operations. That kind of unauthorization use of force, even through partners rather than U.S. soldiers themselves, would contravene constitutional principles. And I think that's a major point here. And here's just some of the programs and where they've been conducted here. You can see all over the world, Libya, Syria, Lebanon, Egypt, Yemen, Iraq, to name a few of those places. Now, the question that also has to be asked is, how did this come about? When was this program started? Well, along with a lot of our privacy stealing programs and freedom stealing programs, this takes a huge, well, shall I say, start from September 11th, kind of like a lot of other programs. But take a look at this document here. And this is the Military Law Review funding surrogate forces in the fight against terrorism. And this is an introduction to kind of a lot of it, but it goes on to talk about the 127E programs. What's the history of that? Well, a proper understanding of 10 USC Section 127E begins with the consideration of its predecessor, the temporary 1208 authority established in 2005. Like many other aspects in the fight against terrorism, Section 1208 traces its origins back to September 11th, 2001, when Al-Qaeda's attacks on the Pentagon and the World Trade Center marked the beginning of an era in the U.S. military operations where armed non-state actors often operating from within sovereign nations, unwilling or unable to prevent their continued existence, would be the primary adversary for the U.S. military. Now, the first days of the operation in Afghanistan in response to the 9/11 attacks revealed a significant gap in SOF capabilities to fulfill their assigned mission without fiscal support from outside of the Department of Defense. Special Operation Forces arrived in October 2001 before their conventional counterparts and began to train, assist, and fight with the Northern Alliance rebel group against the Taliban. However, SOF lacked any fiscal authority to make payments to the benefit of the Northern Alliance since these Afghans were not U.S. personnel. Another executive agency, the CIA, of course, had to pay the Northern Alliance on behalf of the DOD using its authority. So basically, it's got their authority, ever since we were in Afghanistan, right? Kind of stems from there, but it goes on. They needed some kind of funding to do, backdoor deals, if you will, or deals that would involve proxy war kind of stuff, right? But in response to these In response to these developments and to address the evolving nature of the U.S. military operations, Congress enacted 1208 of the fiscal year 2005 NDAA, providing for $25 million annually through FY 2007 to provide support to foreign forces, irregular forces, groups, or individuals engaging in supporting or facilitating ongoing military operations by U.S. Special Forces to combat terrorism. Over the next 12 years, they routinely increased or extended this, right? And leading to an annual budget, if you will, or operation of $100 million. Year after year after year. And I believe since 2017 to about 2020, I believe when you add it all up, it's been about $310 million. That's what I believe it is. Now, we've also had some hearings on this in history's past, one being in 2019, where a little portion of what The Intercept revealed in his article came out, because some of this program has been out, but not to the depth of what The Intercept has revealed. But in 2019, there was a hearing on that, and I want to take you to that hearing because it's really interesting what he says here. Here's the statement of General Richard D. Clark, U.S. Army Commander, the U.S. Special Operations Commander, and he had to sit before the House committee and give a testimony about this particular program. And here's what he said. So in the opening statement, you can see he's addressing the U.S., or he's talking about the opportunity to inform them on the U.S. Special Operations Command and the SOF, the Special Operation Forces. And here's what he has to say, and this is kind of the highlight of it. The use of the 127 authority has directly resulted in the capture or killing of thousands of terrorists, disrupted terrorist networks and activities, and denied terrorist operating space across a wide range of operating environment at a fraction of the cost of other programs. Now, on its surface, it sounds absolutely beautiful. If we're going after actual terrorists and there are not any human rights abuses. But the problem with that statement that he made is there's no way whatsoever to verify his claim because this is a secret operation. So the questions have to be addressed and asked. Was there human rights violations? Did somebody get labeled a terrorist that really wasn't a terrorist? Well, we won't really know. There's no vetting and there is no oversight on this entire thing. Now, obviously, we have to be able to do some of these kinds of operations at some level when you're talking about a foreign scale here. However, what's the proper line and how involved is Congress in this whole thing? Well, as it turns out, little to none. In that article back on The Intercept, here's what he has to say on it. No vetting, no oversight, which I am questioning myself. While the documents obtained by The Intercept offer clues about the scope and the contour of the program, much of it remains unknown to both public and even members of Congress. Relevant reports required by law are classified at a level that prevents most congressional staffers from accessing them. A government official familiar with the program who requested anonymity to discuss it estimated that only a handful of people on Congress's Armed Services and Intelligence Committee read such report. Congressional Foreign Affairs and Relations Committees, even though they have primary responsibilities for deciding where the U.S. is at war and can use force, do not receive them. And most congressional representatives and staff with clearance to access the reports do not know to ask for them. So, hey, Congress, let's just look the other way. We don't even know about this program. Right? That's the problem with it. There's all these secret things that are being done at the executive levels of presidency or at these departments, your federal bureaucracy, like the DOD, the FBI, the CIA, creating their whole rules and regulations on their own. By the way, none of these are elected officials. And this is one of the things that our founding fathers were disgusted by in the British Empire. And now here we have proxy wars. And you know what? This is now falling under the Biden administration currently, who I believe is not mentally capable of doing anything with the U.S. military. He's lost control because he's not really the one running it all. I think he's lost control of the military on top of that because all he's doing is pushing progressive crap on our U.S. military. But yet, we've got some proxy wars going on. Anyhow, wanted to bring you the latest on all of that. If you really want to follow what's going on, get on over to restrictiverepublic.com. I cannot stress that enough. I am going to be putting out a big report today on the Highland Park shooter that I'm going to be posting on restrictiverepublic.com. And right now, as a special offer, you can get it for $5 per month for the entire first year. Use the coupon code TRUMP to check it out. And by the way, that comes with 14-day free trial, and you can cancel whenever you want. Well, I love all of you. Thanks again for tuning in. I'm Lisa Haven, signing out.